السؤال بتاعي بالنسبه للإيميجريشن وعلاقتها بالديفورس. لو احنا عملنا كونكشن ما بين الماريج والديفورس والإيميجريشن مع بعض، في حالات كتيره بنشوفها، حد مثلا امريكان سيتيزن مارد ايجيبشن وومن وحاول يجيبها وبعد كده ما عرفش، فلظروف ما خلف منها ولد او بنت في مصر، وبعد كده حصل الديفورس قبل ما هي تيجي تاخد سيتيزن شيب او تبقى سيتيزن هي كمان. موقف الاولاد ازاي هي بتقدر توثق حاله اولادها من ناحيه السيتيزن شيب as their father is a citizen.
Okay, so in situations like this, it goes back to the duration of the marriage. Lots of times that does happen, and usually, unfortunately, if in this case a husband and a wife got married, husband's a citizen, wife is not a citizen, she's overseas. If they got divorced immediately, her chances after he files the petition, her chances of being able to continue with that petition are very low because the duration of the marriage was very short. But in this particular example, they actually stayed married long enough to have some kids. In that case, I think as long as she safely passes the 2 to 3 year mark after the petition was made and they get a divorce, she can still continue forward with her process of getting her green card, and eventually she'll still get her citizenship.
He never filed a petition for her. Like, let's say he went to Egypt and he married, and he tried to convince her, okay, you better to stay here. America is a bad country and stuff like that, just to fool her, like not to come here. You know, he might be married here also, or he has an intention to marry here also. So this is a big scenario. So let us assume that he convinced her not to come to the state. And he still marry her for like 5 years, 2 children, and now she has kids, and she has no child support from him. She has no chance even to bring her kids to United States to be treated or join the school or get the benefit of being an American citizen. So in this scenario, what do you think is the solution?
I mean, it's a very sad scenario to be in, unfortunately. I hate to hear situations like that happen, but I think her best bet would be to do an I-360. Lots of times people can get their green card as a result of an abusive marriage. They did really, the fact that they had a marriage in good faith, and she has evidence that they had a marriage, she has kids with this gentleman, DNA testing, paternity testing can absolutely prove that those children are his. It would be enough evidence to be considered with the USCIS Immigration Court for her to potentially still be able to get her green card. Obviously, America is built on a system of justice, and it tries to avoid having situations where people are left in that unfortunate circumstances, and as well as her kids. Her kids have a U.S. citizen father, so they can also get their citizenship through their father. And I mean, I hope that answers the question. There's definitely an opportunity for her. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Inshallah, I know في نسوان in the world they're experiencing this problem, يعني في مجال لهم.
دكتور سعداني اتفضل.
محمد.
دكتور سعداني اتفضل.
Okay. Dr. Ayat, thank you for being with us here. I have a question from one of our audience now. They said 2 married in Egypt and it took place in the divorce took place here with the lawyer. Is any requirement to go back to the embassy? Because there was a Muslim marriage. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's what the question is.
There's 2. I'm sorry. The question is there's 2 people married and where in which?
Back home in Egypt, and the divorce took place here with a lawyer. So there is any other have to go back to the embassy in Egypt and to file another forms?
No. So if they actually got a divorce here in New York with an attorney. Yes. they have a divorce judgment, all they need to do is submit that divorce judgment overseas without their physical presence, and they can get a religious divorce issued based on the fact that they already had a civil divorce in New York. They don't physically have to go back to Egypt.
Okay, thank you. That was our audience question. But my question, let me take you to another curve of the problems here. Child support.
Yes.
Let's think about the problems with child support. Let's say, for example, somebody got married and they get divorced, and the kid's in Egypt and he's in America. Is there any way for him to escape to support the child? And you know how the child support here is a felony and things like that. So
Yes.
let's talk about that a little bit. And I'm sorry I took you away from the divorce, but that's very
That's
important
okay.
topics we can talk
Very
about.
important. You
Sure.
know how they say there's two things you can't escape: death and taxes. I almost feel like child support should be put on that list as well. Child support is a very, very serious thing. If you don't pay it, they'll eventually take your license away. They'll take your passport away. You won't be able to travel. You'll have enormous debt and arrears on you, and you can never escape that debt, even through bankruptcy. But in this particular example, his children are in Egypt. Were they born in Egypt or were they born in America?
They were born in America and they get divorced and they are back in Egypt and with their mom, and he's in America now. And you know what? They try not to pay the child support. What's her way? Because she cannot reach the authorities here. She can go to the embassy and file a claim or file a complaint.
To be honest, it's my understanding that the embassy doesn't have jurisdiction to handle matters of child support. I mean, I don't take my word for it 100%. I could be wrong, but I'm almost sure that the embassy is not the place to go. Her best bet, if she can, is في مجال تيجي على أمريكا ترجع على أمريكا مع ولادها. I mean, her kids are U.S. citizens, and her husband is present in America. Her court in the state where they were married and living together.
That's the only way. They cannot do it online. Is that correct?
I mean, she could probably have an attorney begin a petition proceeding for her without her physical presence, but eventually she might have to appear in court. I mean, because you have to understand, you're asking America, you're asking New York to have jurisdiction over these children. And if the children are U.S. citizens but not physically present in the States, the courts are gonna, again, they love good children. They wanna see the best interest of the child. They're gonna say, those children are our responsibility. Bring them to America, and إحنا عم نصرف. We're gonna determine شو الأحسن إشي إلهم for their مستقبل, for their future. Mm-hmm. You understand? So they take it very seriously. These courts, they want their children to be in front of their eyes and ensure that they're getting their rights, حقهم. In في القانون هون. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
You know, I mean, I'm sure every mother cares about her children immensely. I'm sure she would be willing to take the trip to ensure the best interests of her children.
Right. That's what the greatest America done for the kids. They protect them. I'm on one of the board of this non-for-profit organization supporting all the problems with the family court problems. So I'm going to pass the questions to the other panelists, and I will come back to you for manufacturing and licensing, and we'll let this different issue. All right. Thank you very much.
دكتور عصام البدري اتفضل.
شكرا جزيلا. انا الحقيقه ما عنديش اي اسئله، بس انا سعدت جدا بالمناقشه وبالاسئله وبالاجابات. شكرا جزيلا مرة ثانية، وأنا سعيد بوجودي معاكم، وسعيد بوجود الدكتورة آيات مسعود وبالأستاذ رامي عادل.
عفوا. Dr. Al-Badri, I actually have a question for you. I heard you say you teach at St. John's University?
Yes, I am in language department now and also in mass communication.
That's very nice.
At St. John's. Where do you teach now?
I teach as a professor in the Staten Island campus.
No, I teach in Queens. On Mondays and Thursdays.
Very nice.
And very nice also to know you. Thank you very much.
Technically, we're colleagues.
Exactly. Thank you
Yes,
very
we
much
are.
for that. It's an honor to be.
Yes, the honor is
It's
mine.
very sweet.
Thank you.
Okay,
Actually,
it's my
you actually are my colleague. I'm Puny.
Oh,
Yes. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
okay. My turn to ask my question.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Of course.
So I want to ask about how to consider the mother is best interest for the children. Okay, if the mother does they look at what the mother have if she's on visa or green card, or like does this affect her ability to keep support for her children, like to keep her children with her?
no, her legal status doesn't affect the ability for her children to get child support.
Not support, but to stay with her.
Oh, absolutely, of course. Are the children in this hypothetical, are the children citizens?
Yes, like so we are talking about a marriage that took place here. The father applied for his wife to take green card, but before the process was done, we have a child and there is divorce. So she didn't get her green card yet, or maybe she didn't get her citizenship yet. So will this affect her ability to keep her children with her?
No, it will not affect it. So like I said, usually it depends how long they were married, when the husband filed the I-130 petition, how long she had her green card for. But if her children are already U.S. citizens and she was present and a petition was made on her behalf, whether they got divorced early on in the petition or later, New York or America in general is not going to, be evil enough to rush to separate a mother from her children and leave her young children here, and she has to be back home, or rush to take the children out of their academic opportunities here and their medical benefits here and rush them to a country that may not have good medical and academic benefits. So there are plenty of ways for her to continue her ability to have legal status and eventually get her citizenship. There's so many ways I can think of depending on the situation. There's definitely recourse for that.
Okay, so usually the children, when they are young enough, they go with the mom. She will take care of them unless there is something very bad that prevents this from happening. Is there a certain age that the father can ask for the children to live with him? Like for example, in Egypt, they wait for 12 years old, then the father can take the child to his house. Like, is there something like this here?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
If the father wants the children to live with him, whether they're 1 year old or 17 years old, it all goes back to the best interest of the child and whether the father is a fit parent to take custody of that child. And the relationship that the children have with the mother versus the father, which one is stronger. Lots of times, in America, you can't deny a parent rights of visitation to their children. That's 100%. You can take the worst individual in the world, a murderer, criminal history, drug use, domestic violence, alcohol abuse. That person still has the right to see his or her biological children, at least at least even if it's a supervised visit, to be able to see their children is an absolute right that they have. But there is no age requirement or age limit for that. It's just a matter of fighting for custody, whoever wants primary custody.
Okay, perfect. I heard that like here they allow the father to take the child to his house during weekend, for example, like 1 day a week. They does this here, which is amazing, and I would love Egypt to do the same because they have very strict laws with this. Okay, and one more thing: if the mother have, is there any situation when they actually ask the children themselves who you want to live with?
Yes, there are some situations. It's a very tricky situation. Courts do not like to do that with children because they don't want to mess up the children's psychological and emotional and mental health. It's hard for a child to have to choose between parents. But if the child is old enough, let's just say 15, 16, 17,